I would like to also welcome the officials of the government, representatives of civil society, academia, the business community. Melinda Gates, who's very well known, and Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba. Now, the choice of the chairman or the chairperson was very, very thoughtful because these two countries, the United States and China today, dominate 90% of the instruments and technologies of the digital revolution. The task force, of course, the panel included representatives of all countries in order to be truly representative. There were in all 20 eminent persons. That was called the digital interdependence. There is also another report, and that is by UNCTAD. They also appointed a high-level panel. The purpose of this SBC is to discuss all the challenges of sustainable development, but with special reference to the use of SDC will come up with recommendations which could help the government of Pakistan.
Introductory remarks.
Distinguished panelists on the head table. I have a formal speech that I'll, as he is holding a very important portfolio, it's planning and development, and what can be done through institutionalizing a mechanism for devising a policy framework to embark upon this fourth industrial revolution and artificial intelligence. So I have three tangible recommendations that I had to say at the end of my welcome note, and I'll directly go to them, and then of course we'll hear from the Honorable Minister and we'll carry on the program. First thing, sir, digital platforms are general purpose technologies which can be used in any sector. So although there are challenges and opportunities with the digital technologies, with artificial intelligence, however, I think we need to work on bridging the digital divide and how, of course, through your ministry, through allocations and especially allocations for peripheries and most deprived areas where we can promote these digital technologies. I think that can be one of the ways, especially for financial inclusion. And only yesterday we heard from Dr. Sania Nishtar that Prime Minister has very kindly approved these smartphones for beneficiaries of SAS program and for BIS program, which would, of course, would be a great way for improvement of financial inclusion. Second, sir, for embarking upon digital technologies, artificial intelligence, I think we need to fast track decision making and productivity. by use of digital technology. But this has a trade-off, and trade-off is redundancy of general skills, particularly in government sector. And that is where unlearning and a fresh learning is required to retrain the civil servants. And we hope that through your ministry and through other relevant ministries we can do so. We need to somehow pass this era in which we are working, the PUC era and the file era, in order to get the security clearance for presidency. For each delegate, there were about 500 persons who had to attend the event yesterday at the presidency. We had to submit 16 copies for each person. So it was carton loads of documents that we had to submit to the Planning Commission, who was then sending it to different agencies, and then agencies were giving the clearance and again sending. So I think now with the CNIC as our focal thing, we need to digitalize such of these issues. And finally, there is a capability deficit in state policy making institutions. Hence, there is a need for public-private partnership for coming up with the policy framework and implementation. I would request you, sir, that the Planning Commission, if it can house a dedicated task force for proposing such policy framework, where public and private sector representatives jointly, they can help you and support you. And we would be happy to offer our services if we at SDPI can be of any help in this regard. Thank you very much for sparing your valuable time, and we look forward to work with you in the months and years to come. Thank you.
Guest Mr. Asad Umar to share a few words.
Alaikum. Let me start by apologizing for being about 8 or 9 minutes late. But as I was telling Dr. Abid Suleri, I had so many medicines to pop this morning that slowed me down. So apologies for that. SDPI has done some really useful contribution in the area of research, in the economic sector, in the social sectors. And I'm glad to see that they are continuing to work with that same vigor. And the topic that they have picked up for this year's annual conference is, as Dr. Suleri would know, is something which is very close to my heart, simply because I see it as a means for solving a very large number of our core problems in Pakistan. There are different aspects of it, but the aspect which makes me most excited and the opportunity that I think has the greatest potential impact is what I call the democratization of business in Pakistan. Business in Pakistan is controlled by, or controlled maybe too strong a word, but definitely influenced by large business houses with large pools of capital. They are the ones who have access to policy formulation. They are the ones, obviously, they have the capital, and they have access to even more capital in the shape of the banking industry and even the capital markets. And therefore, I've always maintained that in the Pakistani economy, those who have the greatest, those who have the best ideas, who are willing to work hard, who are willing to take entrepreneurial risks, are not necessarily the ones who become the biggest winners. It is those who have got the most influence and have the ability to influence policy and decisions. And what the digital platform does is it allows you to break through that the barrier. And from very small examples of girls sitting at home in rural areas and being able to conduct business and earn a livelihood for themselves, to potentially the startups becoming multi-billion rupees companies, and hopefully at some point in time, multi-billion dollar companies. So there's this whole spectrum which is available. Revenue generation, documentation of the economy is such a massive challenge for Pakistan. I've strongly believed, and we took more than one steps in that direction. I won't go into the details of that. I've talked about them earlier. of using technology to achieve this end rather than the muscle and might of the FBR officer. I'm convinced even today that the ultimate solution, the ultimate breakthroughs will come through digitization of the economy, much more so than they will come from the gallant efforts of the FBR officers. I'm sure they're trying very, very hard. We are looking at efficient delivery of services to the citizens, and technology obviously has a remarkable role to play there. I was driving very recently and I drove past this place in I-9, and there was a lot of cars there. It's a real traffic jam. And what were they all doing? They were all there to pay the motor vehicle tax. I mean, in this day and age of technology, you shouldn't have to leave home to be able to pay this. You talk about accountability and transparency of governance and making the government accountable to its citizens. And again, I've said this many times, if you are able to digitize what is being done by the government, put it on open platforms, the youth of Pakistan will be able to hold the government of Pakistan accountable in more meaningful ways and more powerfully than the NAB is able to do. So there are so many different aspects in which the promotion of the digital economy is extremely of extreme importance for Pakistan. But at the same time, I also recognize what was being said by Mr. Kaka Khail. That is also a fact that there is and has emerged a digital divide. So this digitization or this development of the digital economy should not only be designed for those who can find their way into Margala Hotel at the invitation of SDPI and are able to understand the English language, but this would only be a success if all 200 million plus citizens of Pakistan are able to benefit from this. Pakistan took some good decisions in this regard. I mean, there's more than one, but there is one that particularly I want to highlight, and that was the creation of the Universal Service Fund. Very, very good idea. And the whole idea was that the revenue which is generated from the more affluent and citizens in the more developed parts of the country, a part of that should be used to provide access to remote areas where people are not so affluent and where it does not necessarily, initially at least, make commercial sense for you to be spreading your digital networks. The Universal Service Fund has gone through ups and downs. There have been periods in which it has done great work. There have been periods where it has been neglected. There was also an instance where tens of billions of rupees of the Universal Service Funds were taken away to finance the fiscal deficit. Dr. Suleri should know about that. Since we are a non-political platform, we shall not name who did it. So that's just one example of good, sensible thinking, which led to creation of a very, very powerful institution which can do a lot to bridge and has done a lot to bridge the digital divide, but obviously there is a lot more that needs to be done. Of course, if you want to truly bridge the digital divide, it will go beyond the Information Technology Ministry or those dealing directly with technology. If people don't even have basic literacy, then it is unlikely that they will be able to make full advantage or full use of the digital technology. So it's a whole of the government approach which needs to be taken in order to be able to do that. On the recommendation of Dr. Suleri, and I take this liberty because he's a friend and we worked together for quite a number of years now. So Dr. Suleri, whenever I talk to people, I'm sure if I talk to anybody in this room and take them aside and say, what do you think about the government of Pakistan and how it works? And they'll say, it is terrible, it doesn't work, and the government is useless, we should not use the government. At the same time, I never attend a function, a seminar, or a conference where people don't recommend government of Pakistan to do even more things. So, I take your advice with some caution. And the other thing that I've noticed in this regard, what you've just said is maybe because there's great allure to technology, I see everybody in the government coming in from different angles, trying to do exactly what you're doing. So by the way, personally a very strong believer in empowering the Information Technology Ministry, and whoever else has great ideas should work from that, because there has to be a common platform. You can't just have kamikaze pilots going off on their own just because they think they can do more good than the others. However, having said all of this, your basic point that there needs to be a coordinated effort where not just the federal and the provincial ministries, provincial governments collaborate, the different ministries within the federal government collaborates, the private sector collaborates, the academia collaborates. I completely endorse that idea, and that is certainly something that attempts have been made to make that happen, perhaps not with complete success, and therefore we need to revisit that and see if we can make that even more successful. Thank you very much, not just for inviting me, for all the great work that the SDPI has been doing, and hope that the rest of the deliberations end up with recommendations which would be of use, and may Allah grant the decision makers the sagacity, the willingness and the time to be able to benefit from those recommendations and make something out of those. Thank you very much.
A token of appreciation. Yasin, a senior advisor, SDPI. That's it. SDC Science Anthology, Corridors of Knowledge for Peace and Development. Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time.
President of Islamic Republic of Pakistan at President Secretariat. Dr. Sania Nishtar, Special Assistant to Prime Minister on Poverty Alleviation and Social Protection, and Mr. Harun Sharif were the keynote speakers. It was followed by a dinner plenary where Federal Minister for Austerity and Reforms, Dr. Ishrat Hussain, and Special Assistant to Prime Minister on Investment, Mr. Zubair Gilani, and Country Director, World Bank. They discussed role of technology in improved business regulatory regime. And here we are today in the introductory plenary. And incidentally, today is also the International Day of People with Disabilities. And I was thinking there are two types of disabilities. One, of course, which can be seen, physical disabilities, mental disabilities, emotionally challenged people. But the other type of disability is the divide which we are creating in the society, have and have not. People who are challenged with opportunities. So those people who have got opportunities and those people who are challenged, deprived of opportunities. And when we are talking of sustainable development in digital society, I think that is the disability that we have to take care of the most. And if you look at the scheme of our panels, you will find that we are trying to actually bridge the gap and try to address this disability, the digital divide. So from today, we would be holding a threadbare discussion in different panels and plenaries on fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence, and what does it mean for financial inclusion, taxation, trade, future of jobs, women entrepreneurs, social protection, renewable energy, climate change, air pollution, managing water resources, education, health, youth and peace building, cybersecurity, food security, regional stability, media, governance, accountability, transgender community, endangered languages, SDGs, CPEC, use of social media for highlighting human rights violation, and many more. So all of these themes would be discussed from today over next 2 days. There would be dinner plenaries as well, apart from the sessions. Tonight there would be a dinner plenary on renewable energy. Tomorrow there would be a dinner plenary on higher education. And on the concluding day, we are also celebrating the life and achievement of a legendary personality in Pakistan whose name knows no introduction, Sayyid Babar Ali. So Sayyid Babar Ali, the founder of
all of you. Dr. Aisha Ghaus Pasha, former Finance Minister Punjab and Member Parliament, Dr. Abid Suleri, Executive Director SDPI, Mr. George Chu, Managing Director Star Times China. It's been a privilege and honor to be here in the starting plenary session of this important conference. I understand that Minister had to leave for urgent matter of state, but I assure you that at the personal level and at the institutional level, we'll be reaching out to him and many more to pass on our messages. The topic is relevant, topic is challenging, the topic is also, as Abid has mentioned, capability to create lots of disruption. So I think all of us who have gathered here today, I would like to frame my talk in 3 different levels. First of all, what are we seeing coming on the horizon with these technologies becoming part of our lives? The second part of my discussion will be that how are developing countries responding to these changes, and particularly Pakistan. And the third part is that what should be the policy response to the change we are going through. But all these 3 things, as I have been maintaining over the past couple of years, the fundamental question to all of you in South Asia particularly is that how can South Asia fast track our progress to catch up with the Asian countries who have already progressed and are becoming developed. South Asia is lagging behind, and there are a number of factors, prolonged conflicts, largest populations. But can technology be the driver of change to fast track our progress, and can we catch up? That's the overall, thinking we need to do. If the global, economic center of gravity and even the multipolar power structures are emerging, and if Asia is going to lead the way in the economic leadership in the world, so how do we reposition ourselves to be part of that wave? I think that's a fundamental question which all of us need to look at in these conferences and talks, because these are digital adoption is a means towards reaching that. Can it be the mean? If it can, what is needed to be done? What are the risks, how these could be mitigated? These are certain questions which I think I will ponder upon. As Dr. Suleri has mentioned, I think the first thing which we need to see while we differentiate between the digital economy of today and the industrial transformational changes which we have seen in the past, that the digital economy of today actually is a very general purpose platform. The internet, the mobile phones, the iClouds, artificial intelligence, you can do actually anything with them. From a very simple communication to a business transaction to service delivery to actually communicating with the rest of the world, e-commerce, the platform remains the same. So the capability or ability of this platform to actually fast track progress in different sectors, be it the lives of the people. Look at all of us. I'm sure all our lives have been changed, for better or worse, with mobile phones. Look at the governments, how they operate. What the minister mentioned, that, how government can provide better services to people through technology. And more importantly, how business can reduce the transaction cost and cost of doing business and efficiency by using these technologies. So all 3 segments can, use these technologies. But the fundamental thing so far which we see is the productivity and efficiency question. When I was the cabinet member and chairman board of investment, Pakistan managed to achieve the highest growth in terms of improvement in ease of doing business. Let me assure you, the single most factor which I used, which led to 28 points growth in Pakistan, was the smart use of technology. All we did was that we tried and cut down the human interaction, and we basically reached out to people through technology platforms, either to register a company or to pay taxes, or if there are 47 different payments they had to pay, we clubbed it to one. You could do it from home, registering the property. So all I'm trying to say is that if you use technology smartly, it can have wonderful returns. If I could have my next slide, just to give you a glimpse. So I took this slide just to learn myself. It's a 2 years old data. I'm sure it has improved manyfold. It's just one day in our life with internet. So I just wanted to look at the magnitude and the outreach. 207, if you look at billion emails a day. So what is this happening? Look at the almost 8 billion YouTube clicks a day. So the power of this technology, and I have charts on, looking at the iClouds, charts on the mobile phone, other. It's mind-boggling when we actually see the impact of these technologies in our lives. So the one question which I will, in this note today, will be talking about how this can fast-track the process of development. But I would also caution that the very important thing which we need to learn is that in order to efficiently use these technologies in the fourth industrial revolution, the base of this digital transformation is analog. So when I speak the analog, that is the public policy side, that is the thinking side, that's the debate side. Unless we put our structure in this analog world right, we cannot use the digital world effectively. So both have to dovetail very nicely. So this is a fundamental question. Second point is that, which I've already highlighted, that we need to see that since the nature of the beast is general purpose, what is our particular need where we need to prioritize in our countries? So that is the second part of the use of technology. My worry in this technology, I'll come to a little bit later, is that if we don't put the analog structures right, particularly the regulatory structures, particularly the policy frameworks, this could have a hollowing effect on the society in terms of job losses, but more importantly, your privacy can be very seriously compromised. And the third part is the inequality, because the rich can go very rich very quickly using this technology effectively, and the poor will be marginalized. So these are the things which policy makers of today, and I'm very pleased that yesterday President of Pakistan took keen interest, but I think it has to go way beyond to the executive and to provinces to take that agenda forward. My talk would specifically focus on the impact on the future of jobs. So some of the data I have been looking, some of the recent studies done by McKinsey, just give you one number, that even by year 2020, the US companies are expecting reprofiling of jobs of 35% of their staff. So I would highlight the word reprofiling. I think the fears, the more I read about it, the fears of redundancies in at least the developed world is not that big because they have invested in the right kind of skills. But reprofiling of jobs is something which is evident. A lot of thinking, and I will come to it in a while, on the policy responses. As we go deeper and deeper, we got to see that the old school of creating jobs through large-scale industry or services sector needs to do a very serious rethinking that what kind of skill mix you would be needing in the next 20 to 30 years to employ a large number of people coming in the labor market. So that's the first part, just to see the magnitude. It is different from steam engine or printing press or, electric generator, which had a very specific niche to revolutionize a sector. This can revolutionize everything, but it has a big disruptive impact. The second part of my discourse today is how developing countries are dealing with it. If we could have the next slide, please. So in terms of developing countries, so another difference which I would highlight about the technological advancements or progress is that adoption to this is actually quite easy in the developing world because it's a general purpose, flexible platform. So we have seen success stories like, the financial inclusion in Kenya, that's where it started, M-Pesa, then moved to other countries. Pakistan is experiencing it.
Non-government, NRSPs and the AHUVATs of the world, the microfinance institutions, they were given the credit 9 by the National Bank, through which people got access to these loans. And we used the land information registration, the LRMIS database sitting in the government of Punjab. We are very, very happy to report that our database of registering all land holdings is very much operational. We use that database to give them a list of potential borrowers. Those potential borrowers were told that this is how you can get access. We had nothing to do in between. It was the bank and the borrowers. We just facilitated and we just paid an interest rate to make it interest-free for them so that the cost of credit is not so high. Believe me, by the time we left the government, we had 350,000 small farmers accessing those loans. 40,000 for Kharif crop, 25,000 for Rabi crop, and the most interesting part, 85 to 90% of them never had access to formal credit before. So we gave them free access to formal credit, which they never had before. And they were supposed to repay, and the repayment, of course, small farmers, small borrowers always repay. My theory, the bigger you are, the higher the chances that you will not repay and you will be a defaulter because you'll get away with it. Small farmers, poor thing, they know they won't be able to get away with it. They repay. And that's the experience of microfinance in many cases, that the repayment is very high. So, and through this Android, it was all internet. No, we were able to trail the cash. It was all through Androids. And then we ended up giving 100,000 Androids, which had apps like what the weather is, which had apps like what insects, if there are diseases about to hit your area. It had apps like what the prices of the products in the close-by markets are. These are instruments which made the difference in the life of those farmers. And I'm not saying that it's all because of this. There are other also initiatives like free, interest-free fertilizer, subsidized fertilizer. We saw that the agricultural growth rate from a negative 3% in 1 year and a half's time went to positive 3%. So these apps are doable in Pakistan, and they really can make a very substantial difference in a very short span of time. It's doable. So that's how service delivery can improve. One example also, well, you need to deliver, you also need to raise revenues. PRA, Punjab Revenue Authority, again is, I would think, one very good example how digitalization can improve resource mobilization. See, the important thing is that you need to break the link between the taxpayer and the tax collector. Because if there is no link, there is no len-den, if I can use that expression. And that actually is one way of doing away with, let's use some candid words, a lot of corruption which goes around. Someone gives, someone takes, it doesn't go in the public exchequer. So one way of breaking that link is to digitalize. Just pay your taxes. on the computer. And one other thing that we are very happy in Punjab we did, and actually this government fortunately finalized that in our app, since they came in, is e-payment of all our taxes. Go to the Government of Punjab portal. You can pay taxes sitting at home on your computer. All taxes. PRA, stamp duties. Again, e-stamp is very important initiative. All the little fees and so on and so forth. Sit at home and pay it. One portal. And I think this is one thing which Harun Sharif was also telling you, which has led to the 28% improvement in our rank in the ease of doing business. So these initiatives, ladies and gentlemen, are very much there. And it's not that we cannot do it. We can do it. We just need to keep it top on our priority. The gains to be had are tremendous. It not only means more revenues to be spent on the development and improving the quality of life of ordinary Pakistanis, it also means that a rupee spent is giving you more, which is equally important in my mind. A rupee saved is like an rupee earned. So through this digitalization, not only can you earn more, but you can also provide more as well with the same amount of funding. So it is the way forward. Lastly, one example of social protection, because this government is so keen on the ISAS program, which is good. And I remember again in the context of Punjab, giving you an example of Khidmat card that we introduced. No politician giving a list of needy people in his or her district. It has to be done through digitally. What we did, we used the World Bank BISP database, and we used the PMT scores to identify the recipients of our social protection program in Punjab. And you know what triggered it? I'll give you an example which will be amazing. We met the chair of NADRA, and we said that, can you do this exercise for us? How many of the recipients of Zakat and Baitul Mal are actually, give us a profile of them. Believe it or not, the people receiving Zakat and Baitul Mal had foreign currency accounts. The people receiving Zakat and Baitul Mal had traveled to foreign countries, had international travel. People receiving Zakat and Baitul Mal were government employees. So it was shaking for us. We said that we have all these initiatives, the recipients of which are being driven by people who know the community. They're supposed to know the well-being of all the people and ensure that it goes to the right place. But these are the results. And when that NADRA chairman, I'm not going to name the province, it wasn't the province of Punjab, by the way. I don't want to name the province. I just want to tell you this, that almost 75% of the recipients, according to these three criteria, really should not have been receiving Zakat and Baitul Mal. So it is very important for us to realize what we are doing. We are making all these claims that so much money is being spent on social protection, but are we really socially protecting those who are deserving it? What is the targeting efficiency of what we are doing? So to end it all, ladies and gentlemen, while I'll absolutely agree with the speakers that this digitalization is a double-edged sword, cybersecurity. I am coming from London, actually. There was a big scandal in the National Health Services where there was a big cyber attack, and I believe, reading the numbers last few days, it cost the economy 92 million pounds. It is dangerous. We need to build in the securities. We need to ensure that our kids, the youth, doesn't go redundant when the jobs are not available there and we are going digital. We need to ensure that the inequalities that are taking place, that are likely to take place, are being planned for and are managed so that there is little damage control. Until and unless we do this, our youngs will become very disillusioned with all that is happening, and we will not have successes. In fact, we are a country which I feel, for us, our youth bulge, which generally has been a demographic dividend for a lot of countries, has not been so much of a dividend, but because of us failing them, they've been more a demographic curse. With the kind of terrorism we see around and so on and so forth. We need to learn our lessons, and we need to learn it quickly. Government has to play its role, and everyone in society, the private sector, educationists, and so on and so forth, they have to play their due role in all of this. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your experiences. Now I will Network Technology China to come up for special remarks.
Ambassador Shafqat Kakadi, and all the members, the teacher, Honorable Professor Tang from Beijing. I'm George Gu from Star Times. First of all, I would like to avail myself of this opportunity to express my views on how to promote sustainable development in a digital society. As a practitioner in broadcasting and the TV industry, not just digital media, we call it the broadcasting and TV industry. I have years of experience and a certain understanding of digitalization in this regard. Now I would like to share with you some of my humble thoughts. With the advancement of globalization, the development of digital technology has brought changes in all aspects to all humankind and society. The popularity of computers and networks, digital processing of sound and video, and digital technology have changed the environment on which human depends. These slides have shown us that what extent digitalization involved in and our life and society. Since digital technology and products have led to richer and freer digital life, and everyone is